With over half of enterprise security budgets going towards detection and response in 2020, the challenge is investing in solutions that can scale, migrate, and adapt with your business. Cloud-native security solutions from ExtraHop are purpose-built to help your team respond to threats across the hybrid attack surface. Everywhere your enterprise exists today and wherever it goes tomorrow, ExtraHop is there to secure it. Learn more at securityweekly.com/ExtraHop. The question is simple. Have any of the systems on my network been compromised? The answer is harder than it should be. Enter AI Hunter. Active Countermeasures has automated and streamlined techniques used by the best pen testers and threat hunters in the industry to create AI Hunter, a network threat hunting solution that does the first pass of a hunt for you to identify systems that are most likely to be compromised and scores the results on a scale from 0 to 100. You can then research those systems in depth with AI Hunter. Focus your valuable time on the systems that need your expertise with AI Hunter. Sign up for a personal demo today at securityweekly.com/ACM.
Welcome back to Business Security Weekly. I am your host, Matt Alderman, joined by Paul Asadorian. Attend RSA Conference 2020, February 24th to 28th, and join thousands of security professionals, forward-thinking innovators, and solution providers for 5 days of actionable learning, inspiring conversation, and breakthrough ideas. You can still save an extra $150 with our discount code, so please visit securityweekly.com/RSAC 2020 to register. We will also be recording in Broadcast Alley at the conference. And so if you want to book your micro interview or sponsor one of our enterprise shows, which we'll be recording from the conference, you can also contact us on that same landing page, securityweekly.com/RSAC 2020. Also, our next webcast is February 13th with Sri Sundaralingam. He's the Vice President, Product and Solutions Marketing at ExtraHop, where we will discuss how to capture network packets in the cloud. Register for our upcoming webcast by visiting securityweekly.com. Select the webcast dropdown from the top menu and click registration. All right. We missed you last week, Paul. It was a holiday in your home. And so I got Jason for the money segment last week. You come back and you get everything else. So
Excellent. Leadership articles. I'm excited.
So this first article I brought in, we touched a little bit on this in the last segment. The survey went out from UC Berkeley and Booz Allen Hamilton, and the findings are board members find cybersecurity risk an existential threat. It sounds pretty right. I mean, I think boards have realized more and more that cybersecurity risk is real and could create some havoc. The thing that I thought was most interesting was the third point in the summary, which was, but board members say they don't have the information and processes in place to provide effective governance when it comes to cyber risk.
Well, yeah, because it's not, disaster recovery is a thing that boards recognize that they have to do, right? And there's really good data on like how maybe likely it is that you're going to have an earthquake or some natural disaster and what you can do to protect against it, right? The difference with cybersecurity is it's always changing. And so are our internal processes, and those all have, this kind of scale of risk and threats and exposures and vulnerabilities, and all of those different things go into the equation of, well, what should we do? How much effort should we put into it? What's the likelihood? So, yeah, it's good to see that they're finally coming around to it, though it sounds like they still don't know what to do about it.
They don't, but they know that it's not just an IT decision anymore. So that's partially good. Mm-hmm. The question is, do they really understand that business has to also understand aspects of cyber risk as part of decisions being made strategically for the business? And that's where I think there's still maybe some disconnects and definitely not the right processes and information in place. And this is where I think CISOs just struggle, is how do they get what we instinctively know into the hands of board members in a way that's efficient and they can understand it. I still see this as one of those big, crossing the chasm issues that we still have in the industry right now.
How do you underscore the importance of ongoing maintenance, right? That's associated with being secure, not incurring technical debt, in the rapid progression of both, the growth of your company along with how you protect all of those processes and assets. And I think that it's easier for people, I think, sometimes to understand the more of the physical aspect. Like, if we have a plant and we're manufacturing widgets, we need to have a maintenance item for things like, power and equipment failure and things like that. It's a lot easier, I think, to understand than, this kind of abstract thing to a lot of people of how our systems might be attacked and what the impact might be, right? Because by nature, hackers are going to do things that just are against the norms, right? When you're maintaining a manufacturing floor, like, it's normal that power is like a thing that you're going to have to maintain, right?
Yeah. And machines and lubrication, all this other stuff.
It's very quantifiable, I guess, right? Is the word I'm looking for.
I want a mobile app, and you throw a mobile app out on the store. You don't realize that there's a lot of components in that app that are also susceptible, that creates a potential risk, but it's not as easy to understand. Yeah.
Agreed.
Definitely. I love this next article. I wanted to bring this in because it talks about when community becomes your competitive advantage. Now, they talk a lot about different product companies, but this is one of the things that you and I embrace, and something you've embraced for a long time on this show is, give back to the community creates back, and it gives you a very interesting perspective, right? Maybe for us, it's not a competitive advantage per se, but we love to get that feedback from our community and the engagement we get with our community. And this article says, look, if you're a product company or you're providing something, embrace the community because it can help you build a better product and a better company.
Yeah, like, don't poop on your community like Sonos did. I mean, this is a shining example. It's outside of security, right? But you could relate this to security. And I think that for those who don't know, Matt, I don't know if you use Sonos at home, right? But they basically sent out a notification to all the customers and said, look, your older devices, those we're not going to support anymore. And by the way, we're not going to push out any new software for them. And at first, that was all updates. I think they've kind of come back around to providing bug fixes and security patches to try and basically cover their ass. But the damage was already done. They said the older stuff now is not going to work with all of the newer stuff. And there's a trade-in program, and essentially, like, you're going to have to take your really expensive Sonos audio devices and put them in the trash, is essentially what they said. Talk about pooping on your community. And what struck me, and I don't know if someone brought this up in the meetings at Sonos, was the people that have the older versions of your hardware, they were the early adopters. They were the ones that helped you get where you are. They helped you promote their products because they bought your product early on when no one had ever heard about you, and they evangelized to all of their audiophile friends. It was like, Sonos is really good, and other people bought them. Now you're punishing those people the most for buying your product, right? And so there's a whole boycott Sonos thing out there. I'm concerned for a security perspective, not just in Sonos's case, but in all cases of IoT. Like, could be decisions that are happening, right? What I think you can do to come back around to this article, Matt, is, and I know it's really hard to open source a lot of things, but even portions of it, and have a development kit and say, look, we're stopping support, but to foster the community, there's a new community forum, and we're making these components open and freely available to interoperate, and it's up to the community to make them work. I think people would be like, yeah, that's pretty cool. At least it would have helped, right?
Yeah. And this article specifically talks about some of that open source community and building that community around it. If you're a commercial company, you decide to end of life something and potentially could ruin your community. That is one avenue to go, is open source. Let people continue to use it. Let them continue to be advocates for you as a company, especially if you're just going to cut them off at the knees.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's pluses and minuses to open source as well.
Oh,
right.
Of
You
course.
got to hope that people are going to contribute to it. Otherwise, you're just left maintaining software with nothing coming back, which is bad. I mean, we've talked about that. A lot of folks in security specifically are like, yeah, I'm not maintaining that anymore. Like, it was just more work for them, right?
Yeah, right. No, it's true. Yeah, you've got a lot of companies that don't want to do that because they don't want to get in the support side of that equation too. So yeah. This next article, the little things that make employees feel appreciated. I thought this was a really nice article to talk about. What do you do to really bridge the gap between managers and employees? How do you really build that relationship with your employees, make them feel more appreciated. Look, in our industry, we're in a zero unemployment rate, right?
Right.
I mean, losing an employee is a lot of work to replace somebody. And so how do you build a way to make your employees feel purpose and want to stay engaged and don't leave, right? So I thought this gave some really interesting tips on, how do you make employees feel appreciated? And the first one is, touch base early and often, right? Communication to me is one of the first things you need to do is, if you come in as a leader into an organization, early and often, just communicate, understand what's going on, what makes the organization tick, what doesn't, what's working, what's not working. I mean, that just starts to build a relationship with you and all the employees that are out there. And I think some people don't do that soon enough.
Yeah, I think it's important. What I like about this list is there's not like buying gifts or donuts or anything like that, which is totally what I was expecting when I read the title. But it's not, which is good. It talks about communication, feedback, growth. Having a sense of purpose or not having a sense of purpose is like the number one reason why people leave, right? Right up there with like their manager just sucks. That's which probably contributes to them feeling like they don't have a sense of purpose or a growth path in the organization. And these items here, giving feedback, addressing growth, offering flexibility, and making a habit of all these things, I think, are really important and contribute to people staying.
Yeah, because look, in large organizations, we're small, but in large organizations, people want to figure out what their growth opportunity is. They want to move up. These are things that keep people engaged and provide them purpose within an organization that allows them to stay. And if you don't give them those pathways and you don't have those conversations, they're going to go find that growth opportunity somewhere else, which then puts you in a situation of finding another employee. The next article is kind of on the other side of the fence, right? Don't stay in your lane. The secrets of developing your career. As an employee, how can you take more self-control over your career and where you're going? So this is kind of on the other side for the employee to say, look, own your voice, raise your hand, find a mentor or sponsor. That we'll talk about that one in a second, but I like the first two, right? Is, own your voice. Like, what do you want to get across? How do you want to be perceived? How do you get engaged and show, your creativity and being engaged in an organization? I think those are two very important things for employees to do to help get noticed and kind of own their destiny and where they're going.
I do encourage everyone to read The Unicorn Project. I'm trying to phrase this without giving away any spoilers, but the main character is put in a position where they kind of have to lay low and maybe stay in their lane, and it's really funny and interesting because they're totally not that person at all, and you can just tell like stuff's gonna go down. And it's I think it is something I've seen personally in my career as well, right? And those are the kind of people you want to work with. You want to go work on their teams, right? People that don't, want to stay in their lane and always have a voice and are willing to disrupt a little bit for the benefit of the business.
Like when we were at Tenable, you raised your hand and you said, "Hey, I want to come work for your team." I'm like, "Okay, I think you should come work for my team."
There's risk involved in every single one of those decisions, right? And if you don't take risks, you're probably not going to get ahead in your career. So, and
now look at where we are,
right?
Yeah, sometimes they work out,
sometimes they don't. And if they don't, you got to learn from it and move on.
I may not have been your sponsor or mentor, but you exposed me to a whole side that I didn't know at all until the last 15 months of what it takes to run a podcast. So
yes,
it's been an awesome ride, Paul. But talking about sponsors and mentors, I think there is an opportunity for people who really want to learn, engage, and learn from people. Find somebody you trust, or find somebody that can help you through that. I do this for a number of people, even in the advisory side, right? I have no shortage of ideas and suggestions, right? I'm more than happy to help anybody if they have an issue or a question or how to do something. I've learned from some great people in my career over the years, I've worked for some great leaders. I've learned a ton. If I can pass that on, I want to pass that on. And there's other people out there. So if you want to learn, find a sponsor or a mentor. They can really help you.
And sometimes those are people you work with directly for the same company, and other times they're outside the company, right? And it really pays off to have both, to be honest with you, right?
Yeah.
You want that external opinion that's not in the thick of things necessarily, but you want someone internally, especially if the company's been around for a while, to help you, navigate and create opportunity, right? And show them that you're willing to put the work in to take advantage of those opportunities.
Exactly.
Jason had that. That was a great story with it. Jason had several months ago now, I think, where there was like a person who worked third shift and they also stayed for first shift just to be able to learn some stuff about security, right? That's what it really is, a shining example of what it takes to move ahead in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk trust on the show a lot. This was an interesting article. Trust is at the core of software marketing. Trust is at the core of everything.
Yeah.
Just saying, right? It was talking about software marketing that said, oh yeah, by the way, this trust has to span over all these other areas. It's just such a core component, I think, for any business to build trust, whether it's software marketing or sales or security or leadership. Trust is just one of those core components that it needs to be rooted into the company from day one. It's so important to build that trust.
Trust really needs to be at the foundation of your marketing program. There's other things you need to do before you get there, right? There needs to be some awareness and things like that, and those are kind of some of the superficial things, but at the end of the day, they need to be led towards sales with like trusting your solution in some capacity.
Exactly, which means you have to do a really good job of articulating the three things we focus on, right? Problem, solution, value.
Yep.
Right? If you can articulate those well, you are starting to establish that basic trust in your marketing program and hopefully into your sales folks and into your product folks across the board is, well, look, this is what we believe our strengths are. This is where we kind of put our name as a company. That's establishing that trust, and it's well beyond marketing.
Yeah, you should come on a podcast like Security Weekly and talk about it.
Exactly.
It's a great way to build trust.
Exactly. Great way to build trust. All right, last one. Chipotle target CISOs say, look, repurpose talent for cyber. You're going to be able to find other talented folks within an organization that has the background to come over and do some of these cybersecurity skills. I thought it was an interesting article from obviously Target being in the news, from their breach a few years back, on what they're trying to do to get folks into the profession because they don't necessarily have security backgrounds, but looking for talent where talent is in the organization, and then trying to repurpose that to solve some of these security use cases, which is a very interesting take from a couple large CISOs.
Yeah, it's interesting. We did the interview with Doug Song from Duo Security, and he said, look, we're based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and there's not a lot of security people here, so 80% of our workforce has been hired from outside of the security industry. I thought that was really telling, right? That it can be done, right? You don't have to be in major cities like Boston or San Francisco to be able to attract that talent that you can hire from outside, provided you have the right things in place. And you should listen to an article about what Doug has to say to hear about all those.
Yeah, I mean, he's also in an interesting spot where he's got the University of Michigan, which has a lot of folks coming out from graduation. Yeah, he's got a talent pool.
Yeah, he went into some of the history behind. He went into some of the history behind the schools in Michigan and such. Yeah.
I mean, you definitely have some really interesting resources available. You see the same thing in large cities, other cities that have large universities.
Yes.
You can start to pull resources out, especially if you have engineering programs and other things where those engineering skill sets can cross over pretty well into cybersecurity because of that logical thinking skill set that I think is important for what a lot of us do on a daily basis. Pulling out of those engineering schools makes it, I think, a little easier. So at least he has a talent pool there. They just probably don't have computer science degrees.
Here in Rhode Island, it's tough too because a lot of folks just go to Boston because it's so close, right? And the amount of companies and technologists in Boston is far surpassed what's in Rhode Island, of course. So we lose a lot of people to that. But we can also recruit them back as well. Sometimes they like to relocate back here. So
yeah, it might be a little easier from a commute and cost perspective.
And a lot of people do that too, right? I mean, we talked a little bit about career advice too. A lot of folks in Rhode Island will go, oh, I want to go work in Boston, and I'm going to commute, right? I'm going to get a higher salary working in the Boston area. I'm going to live in Rhode Island where the cost of living is much less. They're very quickly. I think my nephew, it took him about a week. I mean, some of the bets were like it was going to be a few weeks or a month. It was like about a week or two where he was finding an apartment outside Boston because the commute was killing him. So happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. And look, you're going to find resources in lots of different places. So, just keep an open mind when it comes to who do you look at, what kind of skills are you looking for. The onus is on us sometimes to really identify the key skills we want for our cybersecurity roles, and if we craft them better, we can probably find people from other industries that actually have the skills we need to solve aspects of the skills gap shortage we have in the industry. So absolutely. That was interesting. That was all I had for the news today.
Outstanding.
Yes, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Business Security Weekly.